Gormagov Galera agus Ardvera Corky Cola Dan Boyle, Commissioner Caddis, Adi O'Brien Dooley agus Buttermore Hochty Doyle, Buil Parliament in Europe, Dúspáire Bwalam Arágur Untakan Scéile Golamid Galera Balahe an Shar Madden Gord on Hogáil Shaw, Cogardigus in a Glagachéine, a Glock Park in a Gruen Lane of Agus Fáilte File, Kedmile Fáilte de Gachéine. Trish talks go Corkig ó Har Lar. In our own native language, Seamus, which I know instinctively you are familiar with, given your roots, I've just said how wonderful it is that we're all gathered here in Cork with the Commissioner, with our Lord Mayor, for European Maritime Day Conference. I want to say to Seamus Carney that you can't get a more Irish name than Seamus Carney, and someone belonged to him. It was a Padder Carney who wrote the Irish national anthem. So you're getting closer and closer. And having heard you speak for the first couple of minutes, it's clear that someone in your family kissed the famous Blarney Stone. Because if you kiss the Blarney Stone, you will emerge loquacious for the rest of your life and will never stop talking. And Seamus clearly has that potential. But we thank you for doing all of that. Now, if I could also say that Seamus, if I just one quick correction, no one has ever questioned the verity of the fact that we have the oldest yacht club in the world, the Royal Cork. No one has ever questioned that before, and I just want to make that very clear indeed. But in all seriousness, we welcome all of the delegates to this conference. We hope, Seamus said after the conference, I was a former school teacher, I never objected to students sneaking an hour out from class. To sample some of the delights of the city. We have a beautiful English market, which you might have seen on the screen. There's some very good fish stalls there, and you can sample some of the best of fish in the region, and indeed enjoy the ambience of a port city, of a city with a very strong maritime culture. We thank the Lord Mayor for his hospitality, the Department of Environment and Climate Communications for your work in organising this hugely important conference. The Minister's from Dublin, but he understands where the priorities lay nationally, and we appreciate his commitment to, as we say here, the real capital. Commissioner Caddis, you are particularly welcome. You play a very valuable role in terms of the maritime policy across the European Union, particularly in terms of fishers and fisheries. We appreciate the very constructive relationship that the Irish Government has with you and our Minister has with you, notwithstanding the enormity of your task with 27 EU member states. Your presence here is really appreciated, and we appreciate the work that you are doing, because our seas and our oceans are inextricably bound up with our economy and with our society. And the future is very much one of that inextricable link and bond between our seas and our economy. And in many ways it was always thus. Historically, this is a historic area, maritime-wise, and in many ways prior to the European Union, prior to the formation of the European Union, prior even to the formation of what we might call the nation state, there has always been that links, if you like, between maritime politics, Europe and Ireland, and indeed Britain, with all sorts of different agendas in different centuries and at different times. During the Napoleonic Wars, the city of Cork, and Douglas in particular, and Kieran McCarthy might correct me, he's our local councillor but historian as well, it was a key manufacturing site for sailcloth for the British Navy as they engaged with Napoleon. And in addition to that, on the other side of the coin, Irish rebels and people who wanted independence and so on often sought the assistance of the French maybe or the Spanish in terms of military expeditions to try and liberate the country. Unfortunately, the windy and bad weather got in the way of those military expeditions from time to time. But I was in France recently during the Olympics. Actually, I took an hour or two off to see some fascinating archival material relating to the famous Irish Republic and the father of Irish republicanism in terms of ideology and so on, Wolfe Tone, and his original letters where he's pleading to the French government to help his family as he's about to face his death and execution for participation in rebellion. And so that illustrates the really strong historic links that we have all, if you like, create, and the maritime is in the middle of those links, if you like. And so in the modern era, and our Port Authority, the Cork Harbour Commissioners, probably found the first meeting in 1814. I think if the founding members of the port, I think, would be quite amazed now and proud of the growth and development of the Port of Cork in the intervening centuries and decades. And so we want to move forward with our European colleagues with strength and to, if you like, fulfil the essence of the original mission of the founding people of Cork Port and the Cork authorities. Because Ireland's relationship with the sea has helped to define our nation's culture and very rich history. It has sustained us throughout our history, from the gathering of seafood to enabling commercial trade, to allowing and facilitating wonderful cultural exchanges with our European neighbours near and far, and as I've said, the occasional military expedition. And today our maritime environment is a very important and treasured national asset that yields a wide range of commercial and societal benefits. I've mentioned commercial fishing, transport, tourism, recreation, renewable energy and cultural heritage, as well as critically providing a key role now in supporting marine life and biodiversity more generally. And those are aspects of our marine environment that we have to do better on in terms of conservation, in terms of the biodiversity and the richness of that in our seas. And Seamus mentioned earlier about swimming and so on. I had a wonderful swim in the Atlantic last Saturday, and no difficulties, not cold at all, Seamus. I'd invite you to participate. But it brings home the point that our beaches, our coastal walks, our oceans, enormous recreational value. The great British poet John Keats, I think, was probably one of the poets who always focused on the meditative or the health-enhancing benefits for mind and body of the sea. And nothing beats a good swim in the sea. But then that means then we have to protect the sea, keep the sea clean, and to facilitate all of that. So hosting European Maritime Day in 2025 gives us the opportunity to reflect on these key themes, to discuss and develop these key themes, and how we can, if you like, develop an agreed consensus in terms of how we live in harmony with the sea, and trying to achieve all the various different agendas that emerge from the sea, local, national, European and so forth. And so we hope the conference will shed light on all of that. Our Naval Service headquarters is nearby in Haulbowline. We have a lot of development going on there, and we have an awful lot more to do given the emerging challenges in the world, from cyber security to subsea cables. And subsea cables underpin the modern digital economy, the modern world of traffic, commercial traffic and so forth like that. And that's a very important dimension, and we've had many conferences of that in Ireland in more recent times, and we're working with European colleagues, sharing experience, collaborating essentially in protecting that vital economic infrastructure, and likewise in terms of the energy of the future as well. We have a National Maritime College. I've been involved with that in an earlier era. That's of critical importance in terms of research and so forth. And also we have the world-renowned Research Ireland Centre for Energy, Climate and Marine, which is based at University College Cork, who oversee that. And that area of research is one that I'm particularly interested in and that we want to develop further into the future. The emerging areas for us in marine tourism, the blue bioeconomy, seafood and maritime transport are also important themes that we want to learn from others on and develop even further. The culture of our coastal areas is important in terms of understanding that, engaging properly with our coastal communities, giving our coastal communities in particular a stronger voice in the shaping of policy and the development of policy into the future. Our trading networks are key, and trade is a big topic at the moment in the world for different reasons. But fundamentally, our ports, for example, in Ireland account for 90% of trade movements in and out of the country, and the linking of the ports with our transport network, be it public and road and so on, is absolutely critical. And likewise our tourism industries, again the connection with the maritime experience in terms of the employment that derives from that. Cruise industry has grown enormously. Cork Harbour is Ireland's top destination, with over 80 cruise liners carrying over 115,000 people to the harbour every year. The big issue for Ireland over the next decade will be offshore wind and the development of offshore renewable energy. We're fortunate, depending on what way you look at it, that we're apparently the second windiest location in the world. Some say Vietnam just beats us in terms of wind power and so on like that. That's a positive nowadays. And what that means is our challenge is how do we turn that into the key energy provider into the future. Thankfully, we have achieved a lot in the last 3 to 4 years, particularly in the planning framework around the maritime experience. So we have passed the National Planning Maritime Act. We have developed 4 years ago the planning framework governing our seas. We've established MARA, the agency now responsible in a comprehensive way for planning our seas and so forth. The national, the designated area maritime plan is now going to be developed, particularly in terms of the offshore renewable, in terms of the mapping of the country in its entirety for the offshore renewable. The key issue is to get to 20 gigawatts by 2040, 5 gigawatts by 2030, and we're working with the industry extremely hard to make this a reality. It is the key issue for us economically, but also in terms of decarbonisation and reducing our dependency on imported fossil fuels. And it will be a very transformative political or policy development for Ireland. And the government is absolutely focused on developing the offshore wind infrastructure. We have already issued a number of auctions. We will get this done. And I think that will change the nature of the Irish economy quite significantly 2030s onwards. And then linking in with Europe in terms of the grid. We have a wonderful grid developing with France and Ireland now. Interesting, no objection. I better be careful in saying that too loud. But no, it went very smoothly. We've good gas connectors with Britain. The European grid development will have to, I think, move at pace and will have to accelerate. And European funding streams will have to reflect, I think, that imperative, both in terms of solar, wind and other forms, nuclear and other forms of energy, that we get that connectivity, which I think will give us security and independence at a European scale into the future. The preservation of the marine environment is a key theme of our government, and it's one we can do better on than we have historically, if I'm honest. But again, we have some of the world's finest marine resources. People enjoy our seas. But essentially, in terms of the ruggedness, the beauty of our coastlines, we've got to preserve all of that. We've got to adapt as well in terms of climate change and the impact climate change will have on our coastal areas. And we have to put a greater focus on adaptation into the future in terms of our climate plans and our funding streams to enable us to adapt and protect our coastlines. But the marine environment itself and our biodiversity, I think, is paramount. We have made good strides on land in Ireland with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Has done some exceptional additional work of late in bringing on new national parks. We want to achieve that in our seas as well and work with the various stakeholders to expand our marine protected areas, the correct balance of activity in our seas for the benefit of biological diversity, but also for overall health and well-being. And our aim is by 2030, and it will be challenging, is to have 30% of our sea area designated as protected, ensuring that our marine systems stay healthy, resilient and sustainable. And through implementing the European Union's nature restoration law, we will help restore Irish marine areas to good environmental status, ensuring the restoration of habitats and preservation of iconic marine species around our coasts. And we can't overstate the importance of achieving that. In terms of the marine environments more generally, our focus will always be on creating a sustainable future for our fishing communities and those running marine-based businesses. And I think working with our European colleagues and with the Commissioner, we're very conscious of the need to give a sustainable future that gives a longer-term perspective for fishers in particular, and all the businesses that flow from that in our coastal areas. And we will continue to work on that with them. There's been incredible technological breakthroughs as well in terms of the reducing of emissions within ports, around logistics, around transport, and so forth, automation in our port sector, digitalisation, how we work in our ports, how we create a greener work environment within our ports. A lot of progress has been made in that respect, and Ireland embraces that and will be working with our port authorities to fulfil the various objectives and commitments that we have made along with our European colleagues. On the fisheries and the seafood front, some of the best tasting fish in the world you'll find in the Irish seas in terms of its freshness, quality, and so on. And the European Maritime Agriculture and Fisheries Fund does help in terms of that, and the seafood development programme that we have in developing a profitable, sustainable Irish seafood sector. And that creates jobs, maintains the economic and social activities of our sustainable coastal communities. And that programme is an important one in terms of how we use our natural resources to secure an environmentally friendly future for our citizens, whilst enabling our coastal communities to economically flourish. We will continue to listen and to engage with our coastal communities in terms of future maritime plans. Dialogue is extremely important. That's what this Maritime Day conference is all about. This summit has allowed our strategic partners to engage in a lively discussion and sharing of ideas, and to build stronger relationships across the European Union. And since the very first day in 2008, our conference, that has been the standard of this event. And we appreciate all of the ocean leaders here from across Europe for your participation in shaping a resilient, integrated, sustainable marine space which will support and encourage economic innovation for the benefit of all our European citizens. Europe is key to our maritime policy. We realise that in Ireland. We want to work with our colleagues in Europe to enable us to do that. And the sessions today reflect that in terms of fisheries and oceans dialogue. Next month, I will attend the launch of the EU Ocean Pact at the UN Ocean Conference in Nice, alongside President von der Leyen, President Emmanuel Macron, who apparently wants all the Prime Ministers to swim on that occasion. The water will probably be too warm for me, given my experiences in our coastline, but I will participate. But these events are very important. I pay tribute to President Macron, because President Macron has made the oceans a particular theme of his during his presidency, and it's something that we have supported as a country on an ongoing basis. So I thank you very much for being here this morning. We look forward to this conference, the dialogue, the ideas, recommendations that will flow from it. Agus Taoiseach in the Irish language, Gymynnig sibh Tanev agus Tarev as an Chogáil, that you'll get enjoyment and benefit from the conference. Agus Gymynnig Galer Gyo Eganam Saharish, that we'll all be alive and healthy at the next conference in 12 months' time. Go to Míle Maith Gaibh Galer.